You were mentored by the Looney Tunes, but you also had to develop your own sound. How did you carve out your own lane as a reggaeton producer?
All these guys have their sound and they're elite at what they're doing. Like, how can I have my own lane? And that's where I start using distortions, like hip hop kicks, like hip hop snares and hi-hats, something that wasn't really done in reggaeton. And I think that little by little, I got my spot in my lane within those giants. There's a lot of fear sometimes of like, man, if I try this, it's gonna be too crazy. People are not gonna like it. They're not gonna vibe with it. I'd rather just repeat myself and do the same thing because that's what works for me or whatever. That's a mentality that I try not to have in my career. I just wanna be better. I just wanna try different things and evolve because that's how we get more amazing music. We get more amazing artists.
Let's start from the very beginning. Came up in Puerto Rico. What is your childhood and upbringing like?
I always say I was blessed to be born and raised over there. It's such an amazing island. The culture, the people. You hear a lot of salsa. You hear a lot of like plena, bomba, like things that are really, you know, the roots of like Puerto Rican music. But also, you know, my mom's Dominican and Dominican Republic is right beside it. So you have a lot of Dominican Republic culture over there. You always have music in the house.
What's crazy to me about how diverse your musical interests are is the fact that you're not just influenced by salsa, merengue, reggaeton, and rap. I mean, you're a fan of Linkin Park and Blink-182 as well.
That was my thing at school. Everybody was listening to reggaeton. I was listening to rock and rap. I started to embrace it, and then when I got to go into the production and listen to the music, then I was like, whoa, what Looney Tunes are doing is just insane. What Nelly Arma Secreta is doing is next level. Kind of like what these rap artists that we grew up like embracing and loving as idols, like we can have our Dr. Dre, we can have a Timbaland and Pharrell Williams. Like that's something that's ours now.
At what point did you develop a real interest in creating music?
My mom used to like go to this church. That's where I met my mentor, which is Nelly Arma Secreta, who is an amazing, you know, iconic producer from Puerto Rico. So I know him since I'm like 7, 8 years old. And his cousin, who was older than him, he was the first to bring the FL Studio to anybody over there. I just asked my mom for a computer because I never had one. So she bought me one, and that was the first time that I just went to them like, please, can you give me the FL Studios just to mess around and see what happens. I was still going to school, so I would like stay up until like 7 a.m., probably sleep for half an hour and go to school, come back and stay on the computer. I would see my guy every Sunday at church. So I would bring a CD with like 6 beats for him to give me, you know, some pointers and you know, direction until he felt a point where he saw, okay, there's something here, like this kid might have something. I never really thought about it in that moment of making a living out of it. And you know, eventually Looney got to hear my music and decided to sign me that same day.
Wait, you gotta take me back to that moment. He heard your music that day and signed you on the spot?
It's crazy, like as I mentioned, I used to bring CDs every Sunday and Nelly heard one that he liked and he told me, yo, I'm gonna show this to an artist. Can you come by the studio tomorrow? And I'm like, sure, bro, anything you say. So next day I start calling him and he doesn't pick up like at all. But I say like, should I just pass by and see and just like take a chance? And I just did it. I told my mom to bring me to the studio because I know where it was at. And I started looking for him, but I didn't find him. Who I found was Looney. And you know, that was the most terrifying moment in my life. I'm seeing my idol right in front of me. He asked me, are you the kid that makes beats? And I'm like, I guess so. And he's like, okay, sit down and show me. And you know, bro, I was like knees shaking, like just trying to walk to that seat. I'm about to do a beat right in front of my idol. And just like that, I started working with the same beat that Nelly liked. I just tried to recreate it because I knew it was the safest bet. So I did it and he just went crazy. He starts calling people up, listening to the song, listening to everything. The other half of the Looney Tunes comes in tunes and he listens to it and he's like, wow, this is amazing. And my mom is still waiting for me outside in the car. Like, it's been like 4 or 5 hours. And he's like, yo, talk to your mom because I just want to sign you.
How'd you get the nickname Tainy?
When I got there that they signed me, I didn't have a name. I was just Marco, like that's me. The beat that I did in front of Looney ended up being the intro for their album. So they're doing credits and everything and they say, okay, what's your name? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a like a, you know, stage name or anything. So, you know, my friend Nelly and Naldo and other guys who used to work over there, they start brainstorming and like they just ended up like having this idea that I look like the younger version, like the kid version of what the Looney Tunes were. In the cartoons, you got the younger version, which are the Tiny Tunes. And that's how, they ended up like using the Tainy for me, and then adding the A in between the T and the I, because, most of the work that I was doing was in Spanish and people would pronounce it Tainy. And, so we added the A in between and they pronounce it correctly, and, and now it's different. Like there's 1,000 Tinys all around, but now it's one that's spelled different, so.
At that point in your career, when you start to see these major artists begin to break through in other markets, what was it like seeing that?
It was just amazing for us to be great in Puerto Rico. When you start like growing up as, a Puerto Rican Latino, I think in those days you had a certain limit to where you think you could like grow. And I think the States were something that, was far away. And to see that, Daddy Yankee comes out with Gasolina and it's just this craziness and such a classic song, you start to see, okay, this is just mind-blowing. Like, we never thought that would happen. We never thought to see that one of our artists is gonna sell 1 million copies. To get to see that happen, and then to see Don Omar and Teo Calderon and Wisin and Yandel do it at the same time, it was just like too much to absorb.
For I Like It with Cardi B, J Balvin, and Bad Bunny, you sample a popularly known record. When did you realize you were making a hit?
I knew it was gonna be a great song. I just didn't know how successful it was gonna be because it was gonna be on Cardi's album. And that was the only song that I heard. People know me as a reggaeton producer, like, that was it. But I know I could do more. I could grow as a producer. I can, go into different genres and, at least try it. Probably I'll do it and it's whack, but, I gave it a chance and I tried it. Because I'm such a fan of music in general. And to see that one was successful, it was everything to me because, it opened so many doors.
You go on to create so many more records with J Balvin and Bad Bunny. Y'all got so many hits together. How did that relationship continue to grow?
When I started, there was an age gap between me and the established artists. Like, I was just 14, 15 years old. They're already in their late 20s. But I get to work with these guys and we grew up listening to the same things and liking the same things and probably having the same influences. There's a friendship connection also, aside from, the creative part of it. And, with Bad Bunny, he's a huge fan of rock too. So, that with me and him was like, instant connection of like, okay, we like the same things and we're in the same genre. Like, how can we bring some of that into our music? To see him embrace it and do it, like, for me was an amazing experience and, a goal that I wanted to achieve, to be able to, blend into those areas and bring it into our music and, make it something big.
Yo, you talked about translating sounds for new audiences, and you quite literally did that for Selena Gomez, executive producing her first Spanish language EP, Revelación. How did you and Selena first meet?
We were working with Interscope at that time, and I brought this song that we created just for her, just to see if she liked it or anything. And next day, Benny Blanco has the same meeting over there at Interscope, and the guys just show him this track that I brought, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of this kid. And like, to me, like, Benny Blanco knows who I am, like, that's crazy.
Right.
But he listened to the song and he loves it. So they hit me up next day, like Benny Blanco and all the team at Interscope, and they're like, yo, let's work on this track together and let's bring it to Selena and see what she thinks. She hears the track, she loves it, and then, they just want to blend both worlds. So, who better than to bring that song to life than J Balvin? And so, we create I Can't Get Enough. And, I first meet her at the video set. Like, it's a huge bed, like kind of like a Toy Story kind of feeling. So,
Right.
like, she was such an amazing, person, like her vibe. After that, like, we started talking a lot more and, we did interviews, we did a lot of things like together. But in terms of like her, like sending the first vocals when she recorded like first 2 tracks, it was just mind blowing. Like, I thought I would have to like come in and say, okay, no, we gotta do this like this. This has to be pronounced like this. You gotta do this. But the entirety of the song was amazing. So, it was really special to see that she's such an amazing artist. Like, she doesn't just like go in and sings whatever. Like, she really goes into it to be perfect. And that's special to see that she's, all in and she's giving everything to her fans. Like, she's just not sitting down and doing whatever.
What were some of those decisions you had to make, executive producing a project like this?
I had a little bit of, knowledge onto like probably what to do, but at the same time, it's Selena Gomez. Like, it's something a totally different monster. So, it was intimidating, but at the same time exciting, like to see, okay, we can probably try this with her, because it's something that people probably won't expect at all, but I feel that with her vocals, knowing her music and what I can do production wise, I think this could combine amazing. And you know, that's how like Baila Conmigo like comes to be, because you know, Baila Conmigo is kind of like a reggaeton, like down tempo. That's something that, you know, it's really Puerto Rican. Like it's something that we do a lot over there, because you know, it makes the song a little bit more sexy. You know, it's kind of like a slow vibe, but at the same time it's hard. You can play it at the club. So I know her vocals will sound amazing to it. It was just a matter of you know, everybody trusting me with that.
And then you've got a track like De Una Vez, which kicks off the project, where you let the track breathe to complement Selena's vocal skills. What was her reaction when she first heard that record?
That was the first one that she connected to. That was it. We want to make not a drastic, you know, change from what she's already been doing. So I really wanted something that she could sing and you could appreciate her vocals and, you know, the lyrics, and something that, you know, it's a message that really resonates with her, rather than just doing something for the club or whatever. Because she really has these songs that have messages and, you know, storylines that really are authentic to who she is and what she's living and what she's been through. So I wanted the instrumentation and you know, the chords to like bring that emotion out and, you know, combine with her amazing vocals. So I think it was something more of a introduction, which ended up being that like the first track that she released. But you got to like get her message. You got to like pay attention to her rather than just like being overpowered with music and hard sounding, you know, drums or, you know, something that probably made you want to dance, but just sit down and listen to her.
You reconnected with your OG Yandel, came back with Dynasty. How did you decide on the vibe that you were gonna go with for that one?
It's just an amazing, you know, moment when I get in the studio with Yandel. Like all the ideas that come to mind. It's crazy to see the journey and the different vibes that we've been able to create. I just wanted to bring a little bit of that into this and, you know, give people a little bit, you know, about the old sound, like the old vintage Yandel, but also give you an updated version of him, like what's sounding now with the new generation. Not specifically like do everything reggaeton, but, you know, bring a little bit of, you know, Afrobeat to it, which is something that we both enjoy and we want to bring to the table.
Ya tú sabes, si te sientes sola, me llamas pa' darte más. Si me das la verde, le llevo en la nave. No te hagas, yo sé que tú lo sientes también.
For us, it was special, like working on all these tracks, like him trusting me and the team on, you know, creating this music, and it's just amazing vibes every time we're together. And, you know, I'm happy that we were able to do it, because, you know, it's a long lasting, you know, connection and something that, you know, I know that people have been seeing for years. And, you know, to get this project of us two combined doing what we love, it was amazing. Just to work with a legend like Yandel is.
You've had this career that has allowed you to work with the vets, but also has put you in position to invigorate the careers of new artists. Why was it important for you to start a platform like Neon 16, which is helping to develop Latin creatives?
It's something that I always had in mind, but I didn't feel I was in the position. I felt I needed to, you know, prove myself a little bit more, to grow more as a producer. And planets start aligning themselves, you know, for it to happen. So, you know, I meet Lex, who is my partner in Neon, and, you know, we just had the same mindsets and same goals. We wanted to create a group that had the same creative vision and keep growing, not just the music side, the business side and everything all around it. We just wanted to make that moment where, you know, you had Pharrell Williams, you had the Star track, you know, you have like G-Unit, and you have, you know, Bad Boy. Like we wanted to create something like that, you know, we really didn't see as much like growing up as Latinos. So we wanted that crew that probably represent, you know, this generation, and, you know, gave them a sense of like what we are and how we look and how we project ourselves and what else we want to, you know, achieve in this lifetime and this moment that we have.
So true. Setting up a foundation for the next generation. Which makes me wonder, what do you want your legacy to be when this is all said and done?
Dream bigger. That's what I want, like the other kids, to like not have that box limit that I had when I started, where making a song and having Wisin y Yandel sing it was everything. Like that was our limit. And get to see that now, like getting a Hot 100 track, like it's something that's possible. Like working with a established pop artist like Selena Gomez or like, you know, Justin Bieber, like it's something that's possible for a kid from Puerto Rico. Like, to have an album and you know, have all these artists, no matter the genre, just go into different sessions and work with you. That's what I think my legacy I want it to be. It's just like being a guy that helped like push certain, you know, doors and boundaries and just open them up. And probably I'm not the one that gets like to certain points, but the door is open for the other kids to do it. Just doing everything I can because, you know, it's what I owe the people for it, because that's why they have me here.